What does Fredbear Game Number 998433 hide from the player? Now, before you cast judgment at the absurd name, there's something a bit deceiving about this FNAF game. It's a bad game hiding a good version within. In this game, we must navigate through these trippy, cross-dimensional places that have their own versions of danger. These animatronics aren't pulling their punches either, so I'm going to show you how it all works behind the scenes. We'll be exploring out of bounds, checking things out off camera, and breaking the game to encounter situations we normally can't. So without any further delay, let's embark on this journey in this Fredbear game. Starting off, we'll begin a new game as we load into this parking lot. We can tell there's something off with our character here, between the strong grip on the flashlight and the intense movement they make when trying to simply walk. The door to Fredbear's family diner is locked, but there's a spare key according to this note. Heading back behind the building, we'll find a truck that has a key in the door of it. This must be the key we need, so I went back around to the... oh! Well, that wasn't planned. Being reset by that drop, we'll get the key once again and access the door. A quick jump scare will occur, following with us being in this restaurant now. Walking through Fredbear's crib, we now need to find the office, as it says. When I first did this, I wasn't paying attention to the objective, which changed to survive. This ultimately led to Fredbear seeking me out unknowingly and destroying me. Trying this again, I was ready this time, or at least I thought I was. Surviving entailed running around this restaurant frantically as the game continuously glitched out, making us periodically hop about. I surprisingly survived Fredbear and Bonnie in the second attempt though, which follows with this scene that takes place, as we then wake up to what appears to be the real world for our character. We'll get blipped back and forth, which leads to finding a flashlight in the real world, as we can now switch between the two realities at command. Kind of like the Vanny mask in FNAF Ruin. Let's stop here though, and take another look at everything we just went through. So at the main menu, if we break off and take a look around, we can see it's just the menu section floating out here in the void. And these dudes. Starting up the game, we'll see that we are in fact just this strongman arm that's holding the flashlight. Glorious! The interior of the restaurant is unsurprisingly empty, with some vegetation inside, but that's it. We can also find this bunny person floating outside the building. It basically just floats here, as it'll continuously repeat the same motion, which is the grabbing motion that takes place right before entering the building. I'm not sure what this fella's name is, so I'm just gonna call him Frank Jr. If you know, you know. Off in the distance, within this instance, we can actually find the other version of our character out here. That's why I decided to drag this model all the way to the map, which did take a minute, as our two characters came face to face. Talk about finding your true self. It's like looking in the mirror, right? When attempting to open the restaurant door, you'll see that Frank Jr. will already be approaching us from R6. This is normally a very quick instance when he grabs us, but while slowing the game down, you can see it turns into this crazy scene, as the whole map is affected by it. Loading into the interior of the restaurant though, I was still disoriented by Frank Jr. attacking us. But because of being off camera during this loading, I ended up in a room that we're not supposed to be in until later. Zooming out for an overall view, you'll see that there are three layouts of this interior that are essentially stacked on top of one another. Coming back in, we'll see Frank Jr. floating about over here as he continually repeats this animation, as in the one we see right before entering the realistic world. We can see his face within the mask, but it's hard to make out, given the texture that's being used on this model. There is text out here we can find as well, labeling a doorway, along with open to good and open to bad. This is probably related to switching between the good and bad realities earlier on in development. Getting back on track, it's fair to say we've noticed this hand of ours is off. I say this because it will do this creepy contorting with the fingers occasionally, which we can get a better look at while slowing the game down. This is why Mom tried to stop you from cracking your knuckles so much. Anyway, I decided to turn the floor invisible to see just how close reality is for our character. Starting the surviving part like this upset the game because it eventually crashed. However, we can see how Fred and Bonnie will be warped off the stage as they begin to hunt us. After surviving, we can see how the character arises into this more realistic world. This will lead us to finding our flashlight in the bathroom, which is funny to observe from this perspective, but this is where I ended up breaking the reality hopping that we can do. I did it while off camera, which is a no-no, resulting with player 1, as we'll call him, coming down to this map. This in turn sent player 2 down to the bottom map, which was interesting to check out at first, but got boring real quick, as there's literally nothing down here for us to do. This ultimately soft-locked me though, so I had to restart. When loading back in, I found player 2 pulling off a somewhat impressive moonwalk, which was funny to see. However, when we hop between player 2 and 1 and move around, you'll see how the model of player 2 will just warp to the respective area in which we were standing in the above world. We're back where we left off though, so let's continue on. It's at this point that we must solve a puzzle to move on. While doing this, we have some unwanted company, making for a tense situation. There's numbers that we need to find throughout this area we are presently in though, which will be the code that we end up needing for the keypad. The clock will then go off as we're told to get back to the office. Now, we have more access to the restaurant, which has a slow, zombie-like Bonnie that's patrolling up in the bad map, and Fredbear, who is patrolling in the good map. I'll explain a bit why I believe these maps are referenced good and bad. Anyway, I remember thinking, what happens if I warp back and I'm right next to one of these fools? Well, this happens. You die. Glorious. We need a crowbar at this point, which I'll admit I was struggling to find. After 6 minutes of exploration though, I finally and randomly found the crowbar. This allows us to gain access to this boarded up room, which ends up being another puzzle room. A collection of records are in here, along with a record player. Acquiring particular records in a specific order and playing them will give us these creepy messages that mention directions being north, south, east, and west. Standing within this compass on the ground while looking in these particular directions will ultimately reveal Frank Jr., who I'm speculating may be us? Not sure. The entity drops a record we must play through, which then leads to finding a lighter that's stashed in the record player. We'll then once again be urged to get back to the office as our character nearly has a heart attack. We'll stop here though and take another look at everything we just endured. So, while exploring this area, as I searched for Fredbear, I couldn't help but take a closer look at these arcade machines. I imagine there's some games here that you may recognize, which was neat to check out. However, you'll see that Fredbear is actually standing right behind the door we eventually open, which happens when we interact with the keypad. One thing I didn't realize when first playing this part was that Fredbear is actually not a threat. He just stares. Something else I didn't realize is that if we pursue him, he'll panic and push us out of the way. Within the game, his model is referred to as Good Fredbear. This brings us back to why I called the maps good and bad earlier. Remember those texts out of bounds, reading open to good and open to bad? Well, speculating that opening to good means it's switching to the realer looking world, given that Good Fredbear resides there. It could be referring to good graphics versus bad, or maybe even a non-violent Fredbear. Definitely food for thought. I never got locked out once being told to get back to the office, so I decided to see what happens when we get locked out. At first, I was confused, because I guess it takes a minute, but eventually our character begins to not feel well, as his body then starts to contort. It's an unpleasant end, but the model will then reset back to his default pose right before unloading. Entering the next stage, we'll see Fredbear starts back here, who isn't so nice anymore, as we'll go ahead and let him devour us. He'll lift us up like it's nothing as he tries to eat us. He'll then punch us before doing so, which then leads him to biting into our non-existent head. I let Bonnie get me too as he grabs us, but our arm vanishes, all while Bonnie shakes about, unloading shortly after. I screwed up the warping between these worlds when doing this, as the game loaded me back into the bad map, with our good character model. So when I tried to warp, it threw me way up above the bad map, resulting with being on the roof of it, which was cool, but nothing we haven't seen already. When it comes to searching for the room with a crowbar, I believe the fastest way to find it is by continuously revealing yourself to Fredbear and Bonnie, all while switching back and forth. I don't recall the amount of times you need to do this, but it'll ultimately result in being in that room with the crowbar. With that, I froze Bonnie, so there's no pressure with removing these boards, and moved on. The record room is interesting, as we're basically locked in here now until we solve the puzzle. As you can see how there's a wall in here in the bad world now. It's sorta goofy to watch while using the record player though, as our character keeps his feet planted while doing so, along with a quick unloading and reloading of the model. However, I was not anticipating how fast Frank Jr. unloads during this interaction. We can get a better look at him during this though, but it's basically the same model that we've seen before, minus the bunny mask. I'd say it's a fair guess that this is our character as a child, seeing that they picked out a record that ends up playing something our grown-up self remembers. He'll just vanish though. However, playing in slow motion during this does show how the model actually sinks under the room rather than simply unloading. That was fast, but I digress. We're basically caught up, so let's grab the slider and make our way back to the office. So now that we are safe and sound, I can't help but be anxious with how our character is on the verge of a heart attack. I suppose I can't blame him, but it's at this part where we'll need to burn some things with our newfound lighter. When doing this, I could say I actually jumped out of my seat when Fredbear got me here. He gets us quick, and you'll see why here in a bit, but we'll want to switch over immediately after lighting this first item. However, what makes this worse is that Fredbear is also here, as his speed will increase for every item we find and burn in the good world. There's another stuffed animal, along with 3 other items that we need to burn, totaling to 5 items. We'll once again retreat to the office after burning them all, which then leaves us with nothing going on in the good world. It's when we switch to the bad world that we'll encounter this wild, glitching out room. It'll continue happening until we switch back. As it appears, we then take a hard fall, only to then awaken within a ventilation shaft. With really only one way to go here, we'll push on, as we need to use our ears during this trek. Hearing Fredbear, you'll want to use the lighter to scare him off, and being still is how we avoid Bonnie. It's a long crawl through here, and I died quite a few times, but eventually we'll find our way out, leading to our potential escape. We'll be confronted by Fredbear and Bonnie at this point, as the situation intensifies. It seems there's some trust issues here, and falling for this trap that we end up getting sucked into appears to be the end for us. However, Fredbear saves us, as he throws us through the door we were trying to escape through. Did we die? Were we dreaming? Now we're waking up in a little fort that's in the woods. Our character will have some realizations here, as he connects the drawings that are here with the experience he just went through. Tempted to burn it all. He doesn't, as we then watch him walk away from Fort Cunningham. The game concludes here, so let's go back one last time and take another look at it all. So when lighting this first item on fire, a couple of things happen. Fredbear spawns extraordinarily close to us, as you can see, which is why I died so quickly when first doing this. Not happening this time though. Another thing is that the restaurant opens up more rooms to us, as you can see the walls will unload during this. From here, we'll then seek out this other stuffed animal which is on the stage. There's a party hat that's fairly close by too, and a PS2 game, which I'm assuming is called Can You Beat My Score? G, as that's what's written on the cover. Oh yeah, there's a record we'll burn as well. Other than that, we can see how our character goes about burning the items, but that's about it for the good world. The bad world just has this gotta go fast Fredbear that constantly runs about, but I end up creating a cage for him as I barricaded him into this room. He has nowhere to go now, and it actually worked. As you can see, he just aimlessly runs about in here with no direct path to me. It's pretty funny to be able to see the bad world through this glass ceiling. Granted the view I'm using, but once we burn the items and swap to the bad world, you'll see it looks a bit different now. The whole glitching out scene we encountered is the result of the bad world being stacked upon itself a ton, with no floor basically. Our character will be thrown about during this, and it pretty much happens indefinitely, until we switch back of course. It's quite the spectacle while looking at all of this with this vision, but I'm not able to do much with our character while in this state. So I switched back, which briefly shows us dropping into a room and then loading into the vents. Coming up here, we'll see the Fredbear that I believe is the model we see when scaring him off with a lighter. He'll just continuously do this animation, but sadly, I was never able to find any other models associated with the vent section. However, we can see how our character looks while in the vents, which shows how the model is clipping through the vents, not exactly fitting within it. Of course, this makes sense, as we'd normally never see this. Exploring the vents, you'll see there's no Fredbear or Bonnie waiting for us, as they'll simply just appear in here when having our interaction with them. I'm pretty restricted in here, leaving me with not much else to do. Oh, hi Bonnie. Fast forwarding to our escape, we can see how they are both behind us as soon as we grab the crowbar. There's not much to see that we haven't already seen when it comes to this whole scene, but overall, we can see the transitions better, along with not getting blinded this time. Like a trippy fever dream, we can watch how Fredbear throws us through the doors here as we plummet into the abyss. Our body will eventually come to a stop and remain here until the next scene loads in, which didn't happen for me because the game crashed. Glorious! As for the final scene, we can go ahead and zoom out, which will show how we're basically in a dome-shaped skybox. However, something wasn't right, which could have been because of restarting? Not sure. Our character loaded in, but wasn't in the correct position. This resulted with the model acting out the scene incorrectly, as you can clearly see him going through the papers at the mouth of the fort, only to then get up and clip his way through the side of the fort. This, of course, is not how it normally plays out. Fixing it, I let it play out again, so we can admire the unique positions that this model puts itself through. There, that's much better. But this brings us to the conclusion of Fredbear Game Number 998433. Probably one of the more unique FNAF games I've played in a while. I hope you enjoyed this out-of-bounds adventure, and I'll catch you in the next video. Cheers!